Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the divine principle. Now, this is the spiritual heart of the unification movement, and it's a philosophy that really tries to tackle the big stuff, life's biggest questions, from our purpose to the very nature of the universe.
The whole philosophy really hinges on one pretty profound question. We often think of love as, just an emotion, right? But what if it's something more? What if love is the fundamental organizing force of the entire universe? That's the core idea the divine principle asks us to really consider.
Okay, so what exactly is the divine principle at its core? Let's break it down.
Well, it's presented as this universal guide, kind of like a blueprint for restoring harmony and balance in the world. And the goal here isn't just about personal well-being. Nope, it's about global restoration. And the idea is that this is achieved by understanding the deep, interconnected relationship between God, humanity, and the universe. And this right here, this is the engine that drives the entire framework. Love isn't seen as some passive concept. It's an active cosmic law. It's presented as the very reason for creation itself and the ultimate purpose that humanity is meant to fulfill. But a framework this ambitious doesn't just appear out of nowhere. To really understand it, we've got to look at its origins. So where did all these ideas come from? The story begins with its founder, Sun Myung-moon, and it starts during a really turbulent period in Korean history. He was on this personal quest for a unifying philosophy, something that could bridge the wisdom of ancient religious traditions with all the complex challenges of modern society. So this idea was formalized over several decades. After founding the Unification Church back in the 1950s, Moon spent years collaborating with scholars to really articulate and write down this comprehensive system. And it's this text that continues to be the foundation of the unification movement today. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. This shows you the diverse intellectual DNA of the divine principle. It's not built from just one tradition. Instead, it weaves together concepts from so many different places. You can see the influence of Christian theology, that deep emphasis on family from Korean Confucianism, and even ideas from both Eastern and Western philosophy. It's a true synthesis. Okay, now we're going to get into the core tenets to see how this all builds into a complete worldview. This is where we really explore the mechanics of the universe according to the divine principle. So creation isn't viewed as a single event in the distant past, but as this dynamic, ongoing process. It all begins with God's will to express love. Then it moves through the formation of the spiritual and physical worlds, and it culminates in humanity's active role as co-creators. We're tasked with realizing that divine love right here on Earth. And where is this divine love meant to be practiced and perfected? Well, the answer is absolutely central to the teaching: the family. In this framework, the family isn't just a social unit. It's seen as the fundamental training ground for love and the very building block of a harmonious world. Another really key teaching is the need to harmonize our material and our spiritual lives. The principle suggests that economic development and scientific progress are only truly meaningful when they're guided by spiritual values, things like moral character and our capacity for love. One without the other is considered totally incomplete. These are powerful ideas for sure, but a philosophy is only as strong as its application. So how is this vision put into practice? Well, that brings us to the movement that's carrying this mission forward. The Unification Church, which is now known more broadly as the Unification Movement, is the main vehicle for applying these teachings globally. Its whole mission is to act as a bridge, connecting individuals, cultures, and even entire nations. And the movement's work extends far beyond what you might think of as traditional religious practice. There's a huge emphasis on outward-facing missions, with a lot of the focus on interfaith dialogue and global peace initiatives, alongside education, cultural programs, and humanitarian aid. And to make this happen, several organizations were established to translate these values into real-world action. You've got groups like the Universal Peace Federation, and they work on everything from conflict resolution to community development, all guided by that core philosophy of unity. So, this all brings us to a crucial question. How does a framework that was developed decades ago hold any relevance for the complex challenges we're all facing in the 21st century? Well, the teachings are applied directly to some of today's most pressing issues. As an answer to growing social isolation, the principle proposes a renewed focus on family and community. To counter materialism, it calls for a balance with spiritual purpose. And for new ethical dilemmas, like the ones we see with AI, it suggests a moral compass guided by love and service. And what about that classic conflict between science and religion? The divine principle just rejects that conflict. Instead, it frames them as two complementary paths to understanding reality. One explores the how, the other explores the why, but both are seen as essential for uncovering a unified truth. And this leaves us with a final question to consider. In our diverse, interconnected, yet often divided world, what is the role of a spiritual vision that seeks to find the universal principles that can unite us all? That's definitely something worth thinking about.